Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear grade 12 students in Qatar Technical School, welcome back. Today's lesson is the last part of Review C, and we are going to study from pages 50 and 51 from your course books. So let's get started. In our learning objectives for today, students will be able to use the correct form of the word to make new sentences. Number 2, choose the correct way of causation to complete the sentence. And the last objective is to change the given captions into sentences in the passive form. Dear students, we need the following word formation in order to help us in our lesson. Now, we will change the following words from a verb into a noun. So we start with the first one, construct, which becomes construction. The second one, remove, it becomes removal as a noun. Number 3, recover, it becomes recovery. Number 4, activate, it becomes activation. Next, we have the word transmit, it becomes transmission. And then we have the word install, it becomes installation. Also, we have the verb extract, which becomes extraction. The word insert, which is a verb here, it becomes insertion as a noun. Now, after we learned how to change a verb into a noun and the two forms of the word, the verb and the noun, which we need in our exercise here, number 12, page 50 in your course books. The exercise says, make full sentences from these notes. Use all the words in the box at least once. Change the nouns in italics into verbs in the active form. Now, after we learned the verb form and the noun form, now we have to use them to make our sentences like in the example. But first, let's have a look at the words in the box. Will and the negative want, going to, have to, need to, able to, and the last one, by. Now let's do the first one as an example before you pause the video and try to do the rest. Number 1 says, construction of foundations by builders, deadline 30th of May, essential. Now with essential, we need have to. So it becomes the builders will have to construct. So here we change the italicized word construction into the verb construct. Now please pause the video and try to do the same and pay attention to what is written at the end of each sentence. Number 2, for example, unnecessary. Number 3, impossible. Number 4, essential. Think well and come back to check your answers. Thank you, my dear students. Now let's check the answers. Number 2 says, removal of waste by local council workers, deadline 13th of June, unnecessary. Now, with unnecessary, things we use won't have to. So the sentence begins with the subject, the local council workers won't have to remove the waste by the 13th of June. Here we changed removal into remove as a verb. Now the third one, recovery of wrecked ship by divers, deadline in tomorrow, impossible. In this sentence, we say the divers aren't going to be able to recover the wrecked ship by tomorrow. So we changed the recovery into the verb recover, and we used aren't going to be able to. Impossible. The fourth one here, activation of a new equipment by technicians. Deadline next week. This is essential. Now we start with the subject. We say the technicians will need to activate the new equipment no later than next week. Excellent, my students. Now here we have to complete the other sentences from 5 to 8. And the first one here, number 5, we have to use a modal verb that expresses possibility. Number 6, unnecessary. Number 7, essential. And number 8, unnecessary also. Now let's check your answers. Number 5, the radio operator is going to be able to transmit the signal by 12:30 today. Number 6, installation of wiring by electricians, deadline in today. Unnecessary. So we say the electricians won't need to install the wiring by the end of today. Then number 7, extraction of ores by mining company, deadline end year. Essential. So we say the mining company will have to extract. This is essential. They will have to extract the ores by the end of the year. And the last one, insertion of new tubes in well by drill team, deadline this week. Unnecessary. We say the drill teams won't have to insert the new tubes in the well this week. This is not necessary. Well done. Dear students, let's now move to exercise number 13 from the same page. And this time we have to write the verbs related to these nouns. The first one, which is given as an example, consumption, and the verb is to consume. What about the rest from 2 to 8? Think of them, try, then come back to check your answers. Now, let's check together. The second one, emission, is the noun, and the verb is to emit. Number 3, purification is the noun, and the verb is to purify. Number 4, desulfurization is the noun, and the verb is to desulfurize. Number 5, humidification is the noun, and the verb is to humidify. Number 6, liquefaction is the noun, and the verb is to liquefy. Number 7, solidification is the noun, and the verb is to solidify. And the last one, gasification, is the noun, and the verb is to gasify. Well done. Now, dear students, with exercise number 14, in this exercise, you have to underline the correct words or phrases in brackets to complete the sentences. And you have to remember that we have two kinds of causation expressions or words. The first one that is followed by a verb like because, and the other ones that are followed by a noun like owing to, caused by, and so on. Now, let's do the first one as an example before you have your time to think. The first one, the electrician was protected from electric shock. Space, his rubber safety boots. Now, after this space, which we have to choose in the words either owing to, or because, we have his rubber safety boots. Does this part include any verb? His rubber safety boots? The answer is no. So can we use the word because? The answer also no, because the word because should be followed by a verb, and here we don't have a verb that follows the word because. So we have to choose owing to instead. Now think in the same way and try to do the rest of the sentences from 2 to 8. Welcome back, my dear students. Thank you so much. Now let's check your answers. Number 2, caused by an earthquake below, because here we have no verb also. The third one, due to a piece of insulation, also we have no verb. Number 4, because of, it's different from the word because. Because of is followed also by a noun. Number 5, because it struck. Here we need a verb, struck, so we use the word because. Number 6, as a result of a serious virus. No verb, so we use as a result of. Number 7, due to a fracture, which is a noun, so we use due to. Number 8, we have because of again, some faulty wiring. Well done, my students. Dear students, in the following illustration in exercise 15, we have to do the following. Change the captions below into full sentences about the process in this illustration. Change the nouns in italics into verbs in the passive form. Before we start, let's have a look at some important words here so that we understand what happens here. The first one we have separation, which means not linked, to separate something, to divide it. Divide this thing into parts. Now, the next one, we have the word pulverized, which means destroyed. Then we have the word boiler, which is like heater. It boils water or heats water. Next, we have ash, black powdery substance that is left after something is burnt. It can be black or gray sometimes. Then we have the word condenser, which is a device that cools gases into liquids. Okay, my dear students, back with the question again. We have to change the captions below into full sentences by changing the nouns in italics into verbs. And also, we have to use the passive form. Let's do the first one as an example. Separation of oxygen from air, introduction of oxygen into boiler. Now let's see how we change this sentence into passive and change the noun separation into a verb. It becomes like the following. Oxygen is separated from air and introduced into a boiler or the boiler. Now, please think of the other sentences and try to do the same. Like what happened in the first one. We started with the object, oxygen, then we change it into passive, is separated. So please now think of the other sentences and try to change them into passive and change the nouns in italic into verbs. Pause the video and come back to check your answers. Now let's begin with number 2. Pulverization of coal, combustion in oxygen-rich environment, reduction of pollutants. Now we change it into the following way. The coal is pulverized and combusted in an oxygen-rich environment. As a result, the pollutants are reduced. As you can see, all the verbs here are used in the passive form. Number 3, removal of ash using electrostatic precipitators. Now we change it in the following way. The ash is removed using electrostatic precipitators. Number 4, condensation of steam into water, transfer of water to boiler, completion of combustion using water. Now we change it in the following way. The steam is condensed into water, which is then transferred to the boiler where the combustion is completed. Again, we use the passive voice. Now in the last one, number 5, recycling of CO2 emission from combustion, recovery of CO2 for later capture and storage. It becomes the CO2 emission from the combustion is recycled and recovered for later capture and storage. Excellent, my students. Dear students, as you saw, we tried to solve most of the exercises in this revision. Please now log on to your Microsoft Teams account and try to do the quiz. That's all for today. Goodbye.